All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Sport webinar. Today's date is February 10th, 2020. The title of tonight's webinar is Do We Box or Take the Line? And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar. Other webinars we have, our live trading room or anything else with Viper Trading Systems, should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? All right, if there's not, let's go ahead and start a chart. And I purposely did it like I like to do because I think this particular method works extremely well to teach people to see the trades so that they can take the trades. Okay. Now, keep in mind as a rule when you're trading, when they do their little retraces and everything, you got to remember, if anybody's in here that doesn't know this, be sure that you've got to understand there's what's called identified swings and just swings, because identified swings are super, super important. Now, the way our scripts do on Lightning 3 or any of the scripts as far as that goes, they will only draw from one high to one low to one high to one low. It will not draw from a high to a low to a high to a high, okay? Because if you were to draw this, you'd actually see some prices, elsewhere on this. In other words, it's going to always do it so that you can see that this is definitely the type of trend you're looking at. But that doesn't mean that we can't look at this area right here, so, this webinar is about, do we box it or take the line, okay? So what I would do on my chart is I would simply put a line right there, okay? Now, the reason I would put a line right there is because that is a good area of resistance on this particular chart, and that's what we would be looking for, right? Okay, now we don't know for sure if it's going to go there, right? So you could also put a line here, because a lot of times they'll come and they'll just kiss the area like that. So basically, this is a little sweet spot, like right here. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have a box this big, but I am saying that, when you draw your boxes on your chart, this is what you're actually looking at least right now, okay? That's all we know by looking at this chart right here. Okay, so if somehow the prices did come back up, they're not going to come back all of a sudden, it's going to be a zigzag effect. But if they didn't take this out right here, then more than likely they're going to be heading down again, by simply hitting resistance and then head down some more, right? Because that's what you're looking for always, is this type of action for a downtrend and opposite for an uptrend. So we already know by looking at this chart where we feel that it's going to hit its head, and we have some indicators and things like that that'll help us too. But we've got to be ready when it does get in this area to go ahead and fire a trade, right? Now, what would it take for this trend right here to change directions as we speak? Now, keep in mind that this could come just to here and keep stair-stepping down. This could be a new Lightning 3. But right now, this is a Lightning 3 right here at 26. So it would take taking out 26, in my personal opinion, to go up. Everybody see that? And that's what you got to do each and every day, is you've got to diagnose your charts. Because if this was to decide to break up here and decide to pull back and kiss, then yes, I would be looking for a long type trade. Okay, but if it doesn't do that, then I'm not looking for a long type trade. Okay, you've always got to diagnose your chart, and this is the other way that I would diagnose it right here. Let me show you here. Let's just say that it comes up, I don't know, anywhere in this area. We'll just say that it comes up in this area here and then decides to reverse. So I'm going to go ahead and do a red colored one. So we've diagnosed our chart, right? I don't like pink. Let's see. Crimson, that's fine. Yeah, that's good color. All right. So we'd kind of expect something like this if it's going to head the direction that we want it to go, right? Okay. So that chart is diagnosed right now. And the thing is, you got to get to where you can see this rather than drawing on your charts, because by the time you draw on your charts, you're almost too late. But this is exactly what I'm seeing on this chart right now. If they broke up, pull back and kissed, I'd take a long. If they come up to here in this area, it doesn't have to be to here, just has to be in this area and rolls over, I'm going to short it. Okay. Everybody see that? So the way you've got to do is you've got to diagnose your chart accordingly. Now, always look to the left to trade the right too, and you'll see, for instance, where they can possibly go if they do keep breaking down too. Okay. Let's see. I thought L3s have the two numbers associated. No, actually, David, on your question, when they have two numbers associated with them, and that's a good question, by the way, when they have two numbers associated with them like this right here, this just simply means that you had a lightning 3 and a lightning 4 that actually hit there. So the one that's green is lightning 3 and the one that's blue is lightning 4. Now the lightning 4 means that that's a 12 range chart that actually, see, it didn't do it here yet though. See what I mean? So, when you don't see the numbers at the bottom also, be sure and just watch for lightning 3. But you will see usually dual numbers at your lightning 3 swings, but you don't always have to have dual numbers at lightning 3 swings. You can also have the single just lightning 3. Okay, but everyone that has a dual on it is also a lightning 3. You see what I mean? Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Because if you see two numbers, then you know that it was a lightning 3, but it's also a lightning 4. If you see one number, you know it's a lightning 3, but it's not a lightning 4. And same thing here. Okay. You look over here and you see some lightning 3 and 4, 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 and so on. Okay. So those are 12 range. I don't really pay attention to them as much as I strictly look at my lightning 3s, because each and every time I diagnose a chart, this is what I look for. Now, one little caveat to add to this though, you do not have to have a lightning 4 to change trends. You can also just have a stair stepping up on like a lightning 2. Remember ES this morning that we took a short and then it went long? I'm going to show you how to take that trade too, because if you waited for it to go to lightning 3, you waited a long time. Okay. Yeah, this is exactly what happened to CL this morning when I called that trade. I picked this middle of the night here so we wouldn't all be familiar with it at all, because we didn't trade this time of night. Maybe you did, but most of us didn't. Okay, so that's the way you want to diagnose your chart. Be ready to take the trade whichever way it decides to go. Now let's look at the actual chart and see where we're at. Okay, and here's the actual chart. Now, did we diagnose this properly? Well, let's do this then. Let's go back to our lightning chart and just change it to the regular template. That way we'll have all the drawing on it. Okay, there's your drawing. Everybody see that? So, all right, looking at this, you have a high little ABC. So you're looking over here and you say, okay, well, it checked that swing. It hasn't checked this swing yet, right? It has not checked that swing there yet. And it can't take out this swing and continue heading down. Everybody see that? So in other words, thrust, retrace, thrust, you cannot take out this swing and still be heading down. So this is your sweet spot for the trade. Okay. Now, when it gets up in here, what we're going to do is we're going to either box it or we're going to look for a line. All right. Now, where I see the line is actually at 17. Okay. Right here. That's where I've got this line drawn. And I see, let's see if there's another lightning 3 swing over here to the left. Yeah, there is. Look at that. 26, 26, 27. So that's a lightning 3 swing on the left. All right. And so we got our box drawn correctly. Everybody see that? All right. So what we would do, we would be looking for a trade to come up in this little sweet spot and then roll over. Okay. And that's exactly the type of trade that we're looking for. Okay. Now, if you're more of a gutsy trader and you want to just, hit this trade the second it hits that line, then you're going to have to put your stop up here. Okay. Because what if it does just hit this 17 and rolls? But keep in mind that, if I'm going to take this trade here and not even wait for it to turn, then I've got to give it the stop that I've diagnosed on the left side of the chart. Okay. So that's the only thing with lines that you got to be careful of, because this could easily, pop up inside here and roll, or it could come all the way up to this top here, maybe miss it by a tick or so, or maybe even tag it and then roll over. Okay. So if you're going to be more of a gutsy trader and, grab this thing the second it hits that line at 17, then you've either got to get out of it quickly or you've got to let it have that stop. Now, if I just put on one contract, I'd probably let it have that stop. If I put on 6 contracts, I wouldn't let it have that stop. Okay. It's all dependent on the number of contracts. Okay. And if you're with like Top Step, 1UP, or something like that, it's also to do with your, your daily drawdown and your trailing drawdown, right? Okay. So, if you were to decide that you wanted to take this the second it hits 17, if it actually even tries to go down, then you got to put your stop there. Okay. So let's right click and go to strategies. And let me make sure I went ahead and changed. Yeah, I've got everything on 4 range. I reinstalled Ninja earlier because I was testing some things. So we're going to do this in replay. And we'll just do it just exactly the way the trade sets up. Let's see, is it more likely to go higher than bottom line since it double bottom? Yes, that's a very, very good point right there, Chuck. Chuck hit something that is extremely important. And that's another thing that I was going to say here too, is if you get these bottoms like this where they don't ratchet down a little bit, then they're going to take this out. Okay. Then you look to the left and you say, okay, they're going to take this out. Okay. And they can't take this out, because if they take this out, then they're no longer heading down. Okay. That doesn't mean I take a long there though. It just means that if they break this 26 and then came back and rested on it, more than likely we're going to get a trend change. Okay. All right. So again, it's depending, for instance, this is like the little box that's on this little double bottoming right now. Everybody see it right there? And since it wicked it, you could even bring it up just a little higher like that. Okay. So it's already breaking that. So this could easily still roll right here if it wanted to. Okay. So if you're like a little bit more of a gutsy trader, you could actually put a region there, bring it up to the line, not that one, the other one. And let's put this back where it was. All right. And then you could actually say, you know what, if you actually go up in that area and touch it by a tick even, then I could actually fire one contract. But again, I'd have to put my stop right there if I do that. Okay. Let's see what it actually did. Just curious. No trade yet. It did come close to our line though, didn't it? Now I'd probably go ahead and box this right here also, actually, or do like a trend line on it. Yeah, we probably missed our opportunity on the line at that 17 anyway. It didn't quite get there though, so I don't really trust it. It's got to at least get to that swing, or I just don't trust it. Now, if it does decide to break, I could always wait for it to break this and come back and kiss it. See, I don't have to chase this trade. Okay, let's see what we get. All right, so there's our Little trade right there. Now, again, we'd have to put our stop just above that 26 right there. And I'd probably put close of the bar even. Okay. And if it goes back down through this, I would probably go ahead and add one. See how I just added one right there? And then I would simply look to the left to trade the right, put one there and look to the left to trade the right, and see if I could get down to around this 81, if at all possible. Or there is a swing right here too before that, but let's try to get to 81. And then you would just let the trade do its own thing. Okay. Now our stop is still right here for right now. As soon as this gets deeper below mid-band, I'd go ahead and tighten it. But for right now, you almost have to leave it where it's at. We need a lower high, by the way. We need a lower high. If it takes out that box, I'd add one. Probably add one now, actually, because I'm watching it kind of trying to take out that little swing. But you can always do the box. Okay? Everybody see that? All right, now, I'm looking at this chart, and I'm saying, okay, man, right now we're only up 80 bucks. What would it take to change trends on this as we speak right now? Well, we've already got it drawn, don't we? All right, we got a little trade. Let's see if we can take some coin. Not yet. Yeah, maybe. Got to stay lower than that. It did. Good enough for me anyway. I'm going to go ahead and bring my stop right down to right on top of that little swing right there. Just in case. Because we need a lower high if we're going to head down. Everybody see that? Just like I called this morning on that oil, and we're back in the green. But we're going to leave our stop right there. I'm only allowing them 9 ticks, but that's still 270 bucks. You know, that's quite a lump to have to get back, isn't it? All you got to do is make 2 of those wrong and you'd be down 540. But keep in mind with more contracts, it's going to be easier to do that, to be down a little bit before you go up also. Okay. And that's a good reason why, you know, like Top Step, One Up and all those, and even your own personal account, you've got to give it a little bit of wiggle room. All right, so we have a high, we have a low, we have a lower high now. Let's see if it'll take out this low. See how I did the line? And I'm feeling a little bit of heat on it, but, you know, all in all, it actually did a pretty good trade because we actually got in at 17. We added when it came up here and gave us a lower high. Okay, see that 26 to 24? So we added when it did that, but we're still only up 40 bucks so far. We haven't really made anything yet. If we could get a couple of hundred, I would probably go ahead and buy one like that. Just go ahead and cover one. That way, you know, you don't let it go all the way back against you. You've at least got that $240 so far. And I'd probably go ahead and bring that down to there. Okay, and if it gets it, it'll just get it. That's all there is to it. And it may get it. If it does, it does. Little swing right there. Well, that's close. It's respecting the swing so far. It just wicked it. May have an $80 trade, maybe 40. No, we're still okay. I'm going to leave that stop there though. Everybody see why? Let me draw the lightning. If you don't see it in real time, then draw your lightning on your chart because you'll be able to see it then. Hopefully we stay in this trade. Draw my lightning. Not wanting to draw my lightning. Oh, I know why. I'm on the wrong key. There we go. That is a swing. See it? It wicked it. If it'd take out that low, I'd go ahead and bring it to break even. We're good. And let's see, we're going to bring one to right down here. because you never know if they're going to go ahead and take this out or at all. It could triple, quadruple bottom or something. So you got to take some coin. That's if it gets down there. Okay, now does everybody see how I actually did this trade based on, I'm going to take, well, we already got the target, so we're good. What I did there is I basically took a line, which we calculated on the chart, okay? I took a box, and then when it came up to where we thought it would, and it comes back inside that box, we actually went with an extra one. That was kind of like boxing it in, right? Now, if you don't feel comfortable with that type of trade, then the best way to do is don't take it. You got to wait for the box. Let me show you where the box would have been on this particular trade right here. Let's just go ahead and get rid of all the stuff on the screen here. All right, let me get rid of lightning. And let's see here. If this was happening in real time, I like to watch thrust retrace. Let me draw it and I'll show you where I'd. Yeah, that's not even doing that. Let's draw it here. Okay, so here's your swing right here on the left. All right, so let's go ahead and draw a line. And then it comes up to mid-band in our little sweet spot. Does not take out our support line. Goes up a little bit more. What you want to get on most of these trades is you want to get an ABC. Once it gets that ABC, then you can start boxing it in. Okay. Now we know by looking at this though that you can't go any higher than that. Okay, because on the left side of the chart, we already diagnosed it, right? We said that this was actually the lightning swing, right? Right here. Even though this draws only from green to yellow, that's still a lightning 3 swing. Okay. So we knew it wouldn't go above that, and look, lo and behold, it didn't. So you got a lower high. Okay, so the way you would box this one in would be more like this right here. And you would have to put your stop above, again, that right there. Okay. Now, if you feel like they're always getting you, then, try something like this with only one. Put your stop here, but take all your coin when it gets down to the bottom. You don't care if it goes down 100 ticks. You got to take the coin when it gets down to the bottom of a range. Okay. Because if you don't, what do they do most times? They'll get you anyway. By the way, I put my stop right there, just in case, because that's lightning swing. Now, could you also say, you know what? Gary's always taught that that's pretty good for the day. Could you take the coin right there and just go ahead and take almost $500? They retrace. The constant thing about markets, and it's so annoying, is that they give these little bitty moves and then they retrace. And then before they give those monster moves, they usually try several times to take people's money if they can do it. But that's why we've got to be smarter than their algorithms, and we got to diagnose our charts. Okay? Because remember, we had that chart marked up. I went ahead and changed the template on it so we don't have it anymore. But anyway, if you go back to your template of webinar and see it, and this will kill our object trade, which we don't care. And then let's get rid of the predictors and everything, and let's draw it and see what it's actually doing as we speak. So I'm going to draw lightning 3, okay? And I drew my line at lightning 3, and it did a beautiful job. This is still our little box that we had drawn earlier. Gene, any word on Ninja 8? Well, I can tell you exactly what the programmer said earlier today. Bear with me one second. Let's see, right this very moment, well, this was yesterday morning. I'm working through an architecture change with adding special calls to play nice with NT's multi-threaded architecture. Once this is done, I will get it over to you. And I said, did you mean tonight? And he said, no, but I am almost finished. It will be tonight or tomorrow night. So I'm hoping that we are there now, because he's had quite a bit of it, and I mean, let's face it, we got to get it. All right, let's draw this again. Draw it from here. Let's draw lightning 1. Okay. Does everybody see how you could get out of this trade? Now, what if, like in the morning, you had a swing, and let's draw lightning 2 instead. Just 1 second. Let's draw lightning 2 here. All right. What if this ABC right here was to actually break up right here? Could you actually box this in right here if this was to break to the upside? Yes or no? Or could you even box it right here as far as that goes? Like, say, for instance, we're looking at a downtrend, but what if this did a low, a high, a higher low, and a higher high and took that little swing out? Could you actually box that in to see if you could get up to here or even here or here? Absolutely. Because what this is your lightning 2, and you can still do the same thing. Lightning 3 is just the larger swings. Let's see what this did. We're not going to trade it, but I want to just see what it did. All right, see how that just came out of that box? It's holding support, holding support, holding support. See there? Could you have taken that? I drew that ahead of time just to show you that that type of trade you can take also. Now, let's look at the actual chart and see where that trade was, though, if you were looking at lightning 2. All right, so what I'm going to do, let's go one more time to our template, and let's see what that looks like. You're probably going to be surprised. I bet it's a red background still. Yep, see there? See there? Now you think, well, wait a minute. That's also a mid-band trade that rolled over. Yep, but that's also a 10-tick trade. You don't have to be afraid of taking trades, even against the background and everything, if you can clearly see that they've quit going with their momentum down, and then they start going up, and then they kiss. See, right on top of that little swing right there, which we drew on that other chart, that came up and it perfectly kissed it and took off. Okay. Now our backgrounds and everything won't change before that happens. There's no way to change it to that, because if we did, you'd literally have a striped shirt all the time, and it would confuse the daylights out of all of us. Okay. But you can definitely, take some of those trades like that if you want to. Okay. But also keep in mind, the reason that we teach this mid-band type trade is, for instance, this one still didn't take out that swing. See it to the left there? But it came and kissed mid-band. Now, this little trade here, Charles and I teach all the time. Can you take that trade right there? Yes, you absolutely can. Let's see. Do you like to hop in on bounce of a down candle followed by an up candle? What I like more than anything, David, on your question, is lightning. When I look at lightning, let me just draw it on your chart. See, when I look at lightning right here, for instance, see, basically, let's look at it right here. I've got a high right here that is a high, low, lower high, lower low, double bottom. This would not be where I would get that trade more than likely, because a lot of times they'll wick it and then roll over. So if it broke this swing right across here and came back and kissed on top of this swing, I might take it. But it would have to break that swing right there, because that is your lightning swing. Now, double bottoms, you can go a little sooner than that, but you still got to be careful, because double bottoms can turn out to be not double bottoms if they just make a lower high. See what I mean? Now, if they take this swing out like so, then that is a double bottom, but you didn't know it's a double bottom until it actually took out the swing on the left. What if it would have done this instead and just kissed this area, maybe even wicked it, and then rolled over it? You don't want to be going along there. Okay. So what I'm saying is that you do have a trend on this side of the chart also. Okay. As far as your smaller swings. Now, as far as the overall trend as we speak with lightning 3 right now, you're still heading down, right? Okay. But when did you start heading up? when they take out this swing right across here. You're pretty much heading up when they do that. And see, they kiss below it. You know, you could box it in and off you go. Okay. Now that's still a risky trade in my opinion though, because again, they kiss mid-band and roll over, and that's what it did right here. And that would have scared you thinking, you know, is this actually just a mid-band rollover? But here's the takeaway on this particular thing right here. Let me show you something. If you get into a trade, let's say you get into a mid-band trade. All right. First off, anytime you get into a mid-band trade, you want it to go at least to the bottom of the swing that you're seeing to the left. Okay. If they do that, like they did here, and actually take it out, then everything's cool. Okay. If you go to another mid-band, all right, let's say that you got that mid-band and you were gutsy and you went ahead and grabbed it because you saw this swing right here to the left, and let's say that you're in it at, I don't know, say 8 or 7, and it goes only down to this little area here and then is immediately right back in your face. Now that one actually probably gave you a 10-tick trade. But if they don't take out this low right here, then you can usually take it to the bank that they're going to take this one out and give you probably to the next level, or even one of these up here, just looking to the left to trade the right. Okay, and that's what they ended up doing there. Okay, now what would it take, anybody, for this to break down again if you're looking at your chart? Let's diagnose this chart. You want to do it in, let's let it go a little bit and see if we can diagnose it. I'm going to let it go a little bit, and then I'm going to let you see if we can diagnose it. Okay, right there. That is an identified swing, high, low, lower, high, trying to get a lower low right now, right? Okay. Now, looking to the left, you have a high, low, like an ABC. So to me, you would have to break this little area here. And usually so I don't get wicked into something, I will actually even go one more down on a swing. So if they break this little box right here, I would probably be looking possibly for a short. Or if they come up and get a lower high and roll over. See, right now you got a high, you got a low, you got a lower high, got a lower low, but you don't have a lower high here yet. Okay. And you don't know if it's going to break down yet, but it is taking out lightning 3. Okay. So could you actually box this one in even? What do you think? Well, you got to be careful doing this because they'll wick these lightning 3s like that. Okay. So to me, I would still want to break this side of the coin over here. Yeah, let's draw it more lightning 3. So your lightning 3, you'd pretty much have to even break that right there. I don't think you'd have to go quite that low, but I would be very careful getting in it because this could be nothing but a phantom. You see what I mean? So let's let it go a little bit further and see what it does. Could have gotten you another quick little pop mid-band. Okay, now let's see, you have a high, you have a low, you have a lower high, lower low, and a little higher high, so that negates that. So it's basically a little double top. So you have a high, a low, same high. So this is your support right under here. Could you short that if it was to break this? Anybody? You are getting lower highs. I think you could, yeah. Let's say if you shorted it right there, let's see if it works out. All we need is 10 ticks. Let's pretend we short that mid-band. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And that's even a better one right there. See it? Thrust, retrace. That's resistance right there. And what do? They kiss resistance and roll. Does anybody remember that trade this morning? Anybody? Anybody remember that trade this morning? Actually, on this little trade right here, we opened the room at 750 something, and that little bar right there I called a short on. And you think, why in the world would you call a short with, you know why? because you were getting a high, low, lower high, and lower low, and it kissed resistance. And we actually took that on that bar right there this morning. Now we're too late now because we don't have Object Trader on, but this was the bar I called it on right there. That little bar right there. And does anybody remember what I called out as the low? I said 88 would be your first target. 98, pardon me, 88. And then 79. Anybody remember that? So how did we know to take that trade right there this morning? Anybody remember it? It was a perfect classic Viper type trade. And you would put your stop. Where do you think? If this double bottoms, could you put your stop right there at stealth? Yeah, Gene, that was the one you got. Matter of fact, several people in the room got this little puppy. I remember it. All right. Now, what I want to do after this is go ahead and show, because this was called live. This is the way that I diagnose the chart in real time. Now, what if this would have done this little candle down and popped above this? What would we have done? Anybody? We would have gone long. Because what would it have been doing then? It would have been doing a double bottom and taken out the top, and we could have probably taken it up. Okay. Now I want to change to another chart, and let's go to ES. Bear with me a second. I've got an ES chart here. All right. ES had a nice little move if you happen to have gotten it before we opened the room. I even commented on it that this was a great trade on ES. Now, I didn't get it either. Okay. But let's go to 8:30 and see what actually happened. I'll just fast forward this to 8:30, and we're going to go over exactly how that trade was taken and called. 24, 25. That's close enough right there. All right. So we had a little trade that we watched for at the open. We draw our lines on our charts just like we always do. There's resistance right there. Let's go ahead and change the color of it. Hopefully I can do it in time. All right. And looking to the left to trade the right. You got another one right there. And they can't really take this one out right here, but they could test it. So we actually, does anybody remember this morning? We actually shorted this little trade right there at that mid band. Called out too. Okay. Now, let me show you a little trick that you're going to really want to teach yourself when you're trading the Viper system, especially with your Lightning. Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll just take this trade. Let's just pretend we got in a little bit late because we called it right at mid-band, but let's just say you were in it right here, okay? And you're thinking, wow, this thing's at least going down to here, okay? Maybe you took two, okay? And you put your stop just above the swing, just in case, okay? Because you don't want to give up a bunch of your coin, right? Especially if you're in two contracts. 5 ticks is, what, 62.50 times 2, $125, right? Okay. So now you wouldn't have gone ahead and gone long if this would have busted above here because you're not sure at that point that it's heading up. Let me show you when we knew that it was heading up instead of down. Watch. Whoop. Let me get rid of what in the world? Come on, Object Trader, what'd you do? Just 1 second. I got to get rid of something. I have put Object Trader in a tizzy. Let me close it and just restart my template. If it didn't get it, I'll draw another chart because that is messed up. Yes. By the way, if this were to ever happen to you at all, that can be because indicators go into a loop or something like that. There's no way to see that unless it does some kind of a deal on the ledger, on the log. All right, but let's draw our lightning. We'll draw it from right down here. All right, so even right down here, okay, you have a high, you have a low, you have a higher high, right? Okay, this is getting a higher low here. Does everybody see that? It's getting a higher low right here. So we were thinking even at the time, whoa, wait a minute, everyone. This is not heading down anymore. Okay, so when this started happening right at the open, if you would have shorted here and you got a scalp, because we actually even said at line 2, well, that's where we always say it is anyway. If you get a mid-band trade, line 2 is 12 ticks, you could usually get 8 or 9 of those. Okay, so line 2 is your scalp on a short like that. And this was stair-stepping back to the upside. What was YM doing at the time? It was actually breaking up. Okay, so where could you go long on this trade if you were of the mind to just take a chance at it? Well, drawing on the chart, you can clearly see you could actually take it right there. Yeah, but that's where it stopped us out because we were in a, here's the way I drew the box in the room this morning, just so everybody can be clear. Drew the box just like this in the room this morning. Okay, matter of fact, it may have even been a little bit higher, like just, hey, if it rolls over, but let's just pretend it's here instead. Okay, so it went back in the box, so you're out of the trade. Okay, because if this was to get a lower high and roll over, you would have been okay. But at the open, why give them a $250 of it back? Especially, for instance, if Charles did 4 contracts. I don't know if he did or not. Okay, but if this breaks this area right here, that is a low, a high, higher low, and a higher high. So if this breaks this, couldn't you take that trade long? Yeah, you definitely could. Okay, because that's almost like a what? A lightning 3. I don't think it ever drew a number here, but you know why it didn't? Because the trade just went up, 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 up. You have to get a number here, it has to stair step. And when they don't stair step, like ES just went straight up at that deal this morning, let's say that you only got like $100 on this trade and you were stopped out inside that box. Okay, let's fast forward it just a little bit, but let's go ahead and do this strategy again. And could you be ready to take that trade if it actually broke that area right there and put a really, really tight stop on it, just in case? What if it just barely broke it and rolled back into the box? Well, if you were already up from my oil calls and things, this little trade happened to go up above the box, would fire the trade. Okay, you can actually at that point even say, you know what, if you add on bar close, I'll go ahead and add one. Maybe you turn on auto and you add more than one. You see what I mean? And usually if I get to 3, I'll usually put my stop nice and tight, just in case. But what if you didn't see that and you said, you know what, that broke that swing like Gary teaches. So what if instead you just simply did this instead? Instead of a line breaking like that, you just simply did a region there. Region trade, hit your enter button, insert button that is, and turn it on. Could you do it that way? And I'm going to show you, I was talking to some people online today. I won't even mention names or anything like that, but wanted to know, how would you get in this trade if you missed the trade? Okay, you got to have a little pullback. Okay, if you don't get some kind of a little pullback, then you can't really jump in this trade because you'd be chasing it here for sure. But what if it pulls back a little bit? Let's say that you say, wow, this thing's really moving. I'm going to go ahead and stay with it. But what if it pulls back to right on top of that swing right there, or maybe on top of line 6, and just decides to keep on trucking? Could you get in it? But you got to wait for a pullback. Okay. And if it does pull back and gives you a chance to get in, you can get in this trade. Okay. But you got to wait for the little pullback. Okay. I would expect it to come here, but this thing was on fire, so it doesn't have to, you know. And if you saw this happening in real time, like right here, even, you could say, you know what? If this thing even tries to go up, I'm going to buy it. You know, that's a pretty good pullback. Could you have actually added one right there? You know, that pulled back into line 6. And of course, you could put a nice tight stop on it. You know, if something happened and I was wrong, I could actually put a nice tight stop on it. Okay. But that's the way you get in something, but you don't want to take a thrust. You got to have some kind of a pullback. Does it have to come to mid-band? No. Does it have to come to line 6? Yeah, pretty much. Or even stealth. But see, that one didn't do a minimum criteria trade at all. That particular trade didn't go below stealth in line 6. And if you missed it, you missed one heck of a trade, because you remember this trade this morning? It was up 15 points. So what if you actually did like Charles and you had 4 contracts for a bit, and I think he probably took some coin right up here, looking to the left to trade the right. He probably took 1 or 2 off, I would think, more than likely. Matter of fact, that's 1, so let's do 2 right there. Okay, just watch and see what kind of money that can actually turn into. I'll just fast forward a little bit. Wasn't the mid-band entry a thrust trade? Well, David, on your question, but that's at the open. All bets are off at the open. You can take momentum type trades at the open of the market, just like oil. You know, I've traded oil short for 3 hours before our room ever opened, and then the moment the room opens, we go long. And yet it was still a red background and all that, but it got the same type of thing, you know, where it got those higher lows and busted up. But look how this actually perfectly broke here and kissed it. Draw you a line right there and you'll see it. It kissed it on the money. See there? That's your trade right there. The breakout, you know, as a rule, see, that went up about 5 ticks and then right back down where you were actually lower than what you got in. Okay. But that's that little pullback we always talk about. It's just like here. When this went up like that and it pulled back a little bit, can you take a chance on a trade like that? Absolutely. Just be careful with it. Because if you do, you'll find that you'll get some of these moves that'll literally go. I mean, you could have literally gone all day. ES never got back to this price again. And so you could take some coin right there and then just ride your runner. And where did we say our runner was? Remember? Line 6, couple of ticks back, close of the bar. And you can actually emulate that on Object Trader by simply turning on trend. All right, I'm turning on trend and go to line 6 and go like 2 ticks or 3 and hit your space bar. You'll know where the stop will be. Stop would be there, so it's the other direction, like that. And then just turn that off and engage it. And there's your stop. The ZT is the zone itself. It's actually in other words, ZT 48 means that it's from here to here, all the way to the top of this phantom area here is 48. Okay, and this was exactly how we called that in the room this morning. Remember, with line 6, and we do like to, even if we say line 6, we do like to fade it just a little bit. Okay, because you don't want them just wicking you out of line 6, because they will do that. Yeah, you don't change that. I mean, you could, If you did change it, then it changes when this turns green and everything else, and you can use this mid-band type trading. I'll go over that in another webinar. Okay. Does everybody see how you could have been so nicely green today, though? And each one of these trades was absolutely, you know, when this went short right here, do we stay, with this trade short and go, you know what? I'm going to put my stop all the way up here. I'm just going to let that thing ride because that's a red background. No, we don't do that. Because if you even look on the left side of the chart to trade the right, even if it broke that swing, see, draw your lightning again. See there? Even if it broke that swing, you're saying, okay, you got a high, low, lower high, lower low, lower low. So high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. That's like an A, B, C, D, E. So if it broke this one on the left side of the chart, this is the one when it broke that it actually changed trends on Lightning 2. Okay, but you could still get a mid-band trade to still roll over. Okay, I like to look at where they go A, B, C, and that's the swing you want to really take out if you want to be conservative about it. Okay, conservative. Now, aggressive, you draw your line right across there, and the moment it took it back out, you could go long. Okay, when you got that higher low. Okay. Yeah. Now remember, I only had one running myself because I only took two. I don't do 4 contracts on ES. One of the reasons is because ES will flop around and slop around in an 8-tick range to where you just want to pull your hair out. And I can stomach that with 2 contracts, but I cannot do it with 4. Charles loves ES. I love oil. Oil, for instance, when I called that trade this morning, if you took that trade right on the bar that I called with 3 contracts, you were up $900. But the thing is, you've always got to know where to get out too. And that's the biggest key to trading that there is. When I called 79 and it went through it down to like 76 and then back up through it again, you got to get out. We called it at stealth or line 2, and even that'll cost you 12 ticks. And 12 ticks on 2 contracts is $240. On one, it's $120. It is more important. You're right, Gene. For instance, if you looked at this chart right here, you say, okay, I've got a top right here, but you've always got to know where they're going. You remember I drew on our chart this morning even. Said, okay, if it does this thrust, then this is leg 2, and this is leg 3, right? Like so. Now, if you looked at the overall, you have to look at the bigger move, and it looks like it's been going down. So I think that's pretty good as far as what we do. So this would be a good area to take some coin, wouldn't it? Okay, but ES actually went up further than this. The thing about leg 1, leg 2, leg 3 is leg 3 has to be at least the same size as leg 1, but it doesn't have to be. It can be larger. It just can't be smaller. Okay, but you got to know which is leg 1 and which is leg 2 and which is leg 3, and that takes a little bit of patience on drawing on your charts. Okay, let's fast forward this a little bit and just see if you could have stayed in this trade with Object Trader doing its own thing. I got it going 500 times. And by the way, you can just do this with your targets. Just get rid of them. That way you've just got your stop in. Regardless what we get. We just put our stop in. Okay, let's see. Anybody have any questions on this thus far? Because, to give an example, when we draw lines on the charts to where you're going to want to look for like a rollover and things like that, that's pretty much taking the line. Okay? And I will take the line lots of times if I feel that they're really going to hit their head there. But always keep in mind at the open of the markets, this thing had been going down pretty much all night and then sideways and even took it down a little bit lower. But then at the open, what'd they do? They busted mid-band and they headed up. We box these trades in all the time, especially when we start seeing this higher low and all that. Would you have boxed this one in here, though? Let's diagnose this one and see if you would have boxed this mid-band trade in. No, because you didn't have any kind of a higher low. This was still a short move. But when you start getting this higher low, see where it starts stair-stepping back up? It's absolutely heading up, not down, when you start seeing that. Okay? You got to look on the left side of the chart, look on the right side of the chart. And you'll always see where they'll start breaking these lightning swings, and then you can watch and say, okay, did it break it? It held on top of this area. Are they heading up? And then all of a sudden you box it in and off they went. You could have boxed it right there. Let's see, when following like with using line 6 by -3, do you prefer touch or close? Well, David, the one thing about stops is, it'd be great if every trade did this right here, which we know, more in hindsight, obviously, because, we saw this thing going up like this, but we called those stops and everything. But, with 2 contracts, this looks awesome, but watch the fluctuation in the price. See, you will pull back and you'll lose some of your coins. See how it's going down a little bit and then up a little bit and then down, then up a little bit, but they don't always do that. But when you can tell what they're really going to do is when they just start thrust up, pull back and kiss like a line 6 or so, and then they don't even touch it. You can rest assured that more than likely this particular trade, now that it's really gone up, I would probably even take the 3 off and go back to line 6 instead, like that. And because this is really heading up. You can even take 1 off and say, you know what, that's good enough for me. I'm done with all but 1. And yeah, you can change that on the fly. That's the beauty of it. You can change anything on the fly with this software. See, I could even put my stop, well, let's just see something. What if I said, you know what, this thing's going nuts. What if I wanted to put it at line 0 and just say, you know what, go, baby. I'll just let you go all day long if you want to. Well, guess what? You'd have a lot of pullbacks. But watch what happened. I'll just put it on 500 times. Just let it do its thing. Even 500 times is slow on ES. You notice that? ES is like 2 old people dancing. And I can say that without being rude because I am older. Now, would you put your stop way down here? Anybody? No. No, what you do instead, you would actually get into like a yellow bar probe, to give an example. All right, let's see if we can get something just for the fun of it. We'll just try for like 10 ticks. Now I've already missed it, maybe. Yeah, I've already missed it. It hit the predictor, so I'm not going to touch it. Okay? Yeah, you can change anything that we built on the fly. That's the beauty of our software. If you want to change your stop, to give an example, let's just say that you're in a trade. I'm not that I would take it here, but I want to show you how this stop is really cool. Let's say that I said, you know what? I see a high, low, kind of like an A, B, C, because it was really sideways here, so like A, B, C. So what if I put my stop underneath here instead, and I look at it and say, well, you know what? That's line 2. So could I actually just go ahead and put it at line 2? I could do my trend stop, line 2, and bring it down on the fly, just like that. Okay? Simply because I see that swing on the left. Now, what if it breaks this right here? Are we going to go short? Anybody? Not if it double tops or not. Now, if it ratcheted up, I probably would. But see, that's a double top right there. That's all that is. So they're going to go lower than this. But looking to the left to trade the right, they shouldn't go lower than this. So you have a thrust. Anytime you have this little action like this, I don't consider this to be thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, thrust, like that. I consider this to be more like this: thrust, retrace, thrust. That's an A, B, C. So that's your A. So that should hold on any kind of pullbacks. Unless they're going to take this thing down and, doesn't look to me like they are actually. Let's see if that holds. I'm just curious. That was after 11. Let's see if they get us. I'd even put it a couple of ticks under it. If I was only in one, that is. Let's just see if it holds. That's close. All right, what would it, if you walked into your trading room right now, what would it take to get you long? Anybody? Let's say that you have missed everything all day long and you see what I've been drawing all morning or all evening. All right, you got a swing right there. You got a low right here. This is actually a swing right there. Could you box that in? Yes or no? Sure. Now, what if it just continues heading down and it stops me? Let's see what it did. Just curious. We'll just add one if it breaks that little swing. And if it breaks, it makes a lower swing, I'll even lower that. See there? There we are. We're in 2. Put our stop just underneath the swing. Exit on close. Now, why did we get that right there? Because at the time, this was your swing, but see how it made a low, a high, a higher low? The moment it took that out, that was a lightning one break. Everybody see that? Now, will it take us? It may still get us. It's hard to say. It's kind of going sideways. But that is definitely a higher low. See it right there? Let's see. Exit on close means if candle closes where. The beauty of that is, David L., on your question, is that if they close below the line itself, it will get you out of the trade. Let's just put it right up here, for instance. If this touches that line, it will not fire it out like Chart Trader would. We got our trail enabled. Let's turn that off. Let's bring it right there. If this actually closes below this swing, it will take you out. But it won't take you out if it just touches it. That's the beauty of exit on close. What exit on close does is simply put your stop here with your broker, but here is your line that's drawing on your chart, and it just has to close below it. Now, right now, you can put it right there, just in case this doesn't head on up. It looks like it is, though, doesn't it? That was another breath of fresh air. And we diagnosed it in real time, see? Always look for those ABCs, and keep in mind that if they don't take out the top, they will take out the swing. That is not an identified swing. They'll make a lower one, and then they'll take off again, or they'll break it and head down. Okay? Now, what if you weren't in this trade right now? Let's just say that you didn't have this trade, and we've taught you can't chase it. You cannot chase it. If it pulls back at all, could you get into the trade? Well, if it comes down in that area right there, I probably would. But what if it doesn't come down there? What if it just breaks this little swing right across here? Is that chasing it? I would probably, more than likely, right through there, I'd be buying it because it held support. I bought it a little bit late. Let's see if it gives us anything. I'll put a tight stop just in case. They may get us. Nope, didn't get us. All right, see how it's stair-stepping now? High, low, higher high. That's your identified swing, just barely, but that is definitely identified right there. See how you got a higher low again? This is the way you trade this each and every day. Learn to draw on your charts, and keep in mind that you can't be that deer in the headlights when we went short here, because that was a short. There was no question about it. This was a short background, a short mid-band, and everything. And this could have easily rolled over and headed down. But what did it do? It rolled over, headed down, and then right back in the box. Okay? And you've got to be ready to flip that puppy or get stopped out and box it. Can you explain after 25 again? I'm not sure what you're asking, Giuseppe. The second identified swing is the conservative one. Well, anytime, here's what I actually look at, and we got to wrap here in a second. Okay, but let me show you here. What I like to see is an ABC type move. And this is pretty much where they're not going to take out. They'll take this out if they barely take out that top. Then they'll do something like this, barely take that out, like so. And this happens all the time. I see it all the time. They'll barely take that out, and if you put your stop that tight, they grabbed you. But your stop, ABC, is right there. And now keep in mind that if this thing had moved like with no pullbacks at all, and that was A, I'm not putting my stop way down there. You know, it's just like here, you know, when it thrusts up like that, you don't do it that way. But most of your moves will be A, B, C, and then they'll take off. A, B, C, and then they take off. You know, and it's pretty constant. And you won't miss that many trades waiting for it to do actually an ABC type move before you get in it. Okay, Giuseppe, hit me with that in the morning because I'm really not understanding what you're asking there, but I'll be more than happy to answer it in the morning. Okay, but in this case right here, if you actually would have boxed it at mid-band, just like we teach, that trade before we close the room, you got out right through there. And you could have gotten back in right at when we closed the room, but you would have gotten a double top, got another trade that went the rest of the day. All right, I'll go ahead and wrap for now. Thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And just remember, draw on your charts, but be ready to take the trade. And always remember that you've got 3 trends on those charts. Okay? And sometimes you have to not pay attention to this when you see this happening in real time. When you quit making lower lows and they start making these higher lows, they're going to be heading up, and you got to be on the train when they do it. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in the morning. Good night.